afternoon. My name is Jordan Fuentes. I am a student physical therapist assistant, and today I'll be reviewing how to use a full body hydraulic lift, or Hoyer lift. Patient lifts are designed to enable a caregiver to safely transfer a patient from a bed, wheelchair, commode, floor, or a similar surface to another surface, and to reduce the risk of injuring a patient and yourself. Patient lifts may fall into two categories: power operated or manual operated. Manual operated patient lifts are controlled by a hydraulic pump handle, while power operated lifts are either controlled by a battery or another electric source. Today I will demonstrate how to use a power operated hydraulic lift. Now, before we begin, it is important that you familiarize yourself with the structures of the lift itself, ensuring that you understand all the proper use of its functions. So I'll start with the base. The base is a metal structure that has 4 casters attached to the bottom, with brakes attached to the rear casters to lock it in place when you're lifting or lowering your patient. Next is the remote. The remote is connected to the battery here on the back of the lift and controls the height of the mast and cradle kit, as well as the width of the base, whether you want to widen the base or decrease the width of the base. Next is the mast. The mast is this metal structure here that connects the base to a structure up here called the boom. Now the boom is going to secure the mast to another structure over here is what's called the cradle kit. Now the cradle kit is what you're going to attach the sling loops to when you get ready to transfer your patient. And lastly, there's the sling. The sling you will position underneath your patient when you get ready to transfer, and these sling loops here are what you'll use to attach to the cradle kit. Also, you must take several precautions prior to transferring your patient. These precautions include: 1. Use surgical exam gloves. 2. Make sure your patient's weight doesn't exceed the weight capacity of the lift or the sling. 3. Check the sling. Make sure there isn't any tears in the stitching, any loose stitching, or any of the loops are broken before using the sling to transfer the patient. 4. Make sure the floor doesn't have any uneven surfaces that might cause the lift to tip in any way while you're transferring. 5. Double check underneath the bed. Make sure that there's no obstacles blocking the base, and that the base has enough height clearance to fit underneath the bed. Lastly, make sure that the bed or any surface that you are transferring from is locked so that it will not move when you are performing the transfer. Now I will demonstrate how to use a battery-operated hydraulic lift to transfer a patient from a gym mat to a wheelchair. Now, before you begin, it's important that you make sure your patient understands the entire process of the transfer. That'll reduce any anxiety that they have before lifting them. So first off, you'll want to position the chair close to the bed and remove any leg rest that might be in the way. Next, engage the wheel locks on the chair to make sure that it stays in place when you're performing the transfer. Next, explain to your patient that you're going to need them to roll from side to side in order to properly place the sling underneath them. Okay. So now what you're going to do is fold the sling in half and lay it next to your patient. Also, make sure that your patient is lying flat on their back and at least 6 inches away from the edge of the mat to prevent any falls while rolling from side to side. So you'll lift your patient's leg up and place their foot firmly on the mat, and you're going to use your right hand to reach underneath the knee and use your other hand to pull at the shoulder to roll your patient onto their side. After that, bring the sling underneath them, ensuring that the top of the sling is at their shoulder height before rolling back. Now have your patient roll back to their other side. and open the sling. Make sure that it's in the proper place before having them roll flat on their back. After that, cross the 2 loops at the bottom of the sling underneath the patient's leg to give them a proper base of support for the transfer. So you'll cross these 2 loops right here. Next, you'll bring the lift over to the bed. And engage the rear casters to hold it in place. Next, position the cradle kit parallel to your patient's shoulders as you get ready to lower the lift. Now, attach the sling loops to the Hoyer, to the 2 hooks in the front. Next, take these side loops here and connect them to the 2 middle hooks of the cradle kit. And lastly, take these top loops, sling loops, and attach them to the 2 rear hooks of the cradle kit. Begin to raise the cradle kit just enough to where it puts tension on those sling loops. Before going all the way up, double check the sling loops and make sure that all of them are secure to the cradle kit before completely lifting your patient. Now lift your patient several inches above the bed. And pull their legs away from the bed. Now, disengage the rear brakes on the caster and direct the lift towards the wheelchair. Before going completely towards the wheelchair, we'll need to widen the base so the wheelchair will fit. Now, after your patient is centered above the wheelchair, lock the rear casters and begin to lower them down. Okay. And lastly, disconnect the sling loops off of the cradle kit. And remove the lift. And that is safely how you transfer a patient from a gym mat to a wheelchair using a power-operated hydraulic lift. Any questions?
What makes someone a good candidate for a Hoyer lift?
Well, Hoyer lifts are designed for patients who are possibly non-weight bearing on both lower extremities, as well as patients whose transfer might pose a potential risk of injury for the patient or the caregiver. Any more questions?
No.
Thank you for your time.